Hello, welcome to Liz Rocks and Stuff. I'm Liz. Let's see what's in my tumbler. And this is a long video this week. I apologize. So first off, this is my miscellaneous stuff in stage one. This is some agates. This is some other stuff. That slurry, look, it's a little thin, but it's okay. Nothing got stuck to the bottom of the barrel, and the grit all got used up, so I'm totally happy with this. And these rocks look really, really good. I am actually really happy with how these are turning out. So going inside, we're just going to sort through all of these. This is mostly agates. A lot of the new stuff I added last week looks like it's some agates. I'm trying to show you that. You can see the lines in that piece that I was just holding up, but they're not super evident like they are with like the lace agate. But there's some pretty stuff in here. I think that actually might have been a piece of a geode. I have no idea. And so sorting those out, we're going to get added in. These are the last of those rocks that I had pulled out to be put in that needed to go into stage one. So we're going to put these back in stage one. I pulled out two. You can see off to the side there's two of these that are ready to go into stage two. And so those will go into a water storage, and the rest of these are going back into stage one for another week as per usual. And so we'll get this lid put on and get that screwed on tight. And I'm trying to save myself because I know this is a long video. Alright, so now we're going to pull out a cup, and we're going to put those two that are ready for stage two into some water. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm putting things, so put those away. And now on to the next barrel. This is the stuff that went into stage two. So these are mostly agates, but also a little bit of other stuff in here, a little bit of everything, I think I said there. So yeah, this is dumortierite, one of the big chunks. That's my dumortierite in quartz. There's my half of a geode. There's some moss agate, some lace agate. There's some amethyst. Probably some other stuff in here too. I'm just looking at what I'm seeing. So most of these are ready to go into stage three, I believe is where they go. This has a small, tiny little pinhole. I was just checking to make sure it wasn't open up, and it isn't. It's just like a little teeny tiny divot, basically, in the middle of the geode, which is kind of normal for geodes, I think. So all those are ready for stage three, but first they're going to go into a burnishing cycle. So putting in my borax here, and then I'm going to let those go for a few hours. I think I tumbled them for maybe about 6 to 8 hours. Typically I do not, typically that's what I do. So that's what I'm going to do here. Some people will burnish for longer, 48, 24 hours. It's really up to you. However you feel is long enough. So I'm starting to mark these stage two soap cycle because as I was going through the flourite went all the way through to final polish, which is why this video is so much longer than normal. And I started losing track of whether or not it was in a soap cycle or a full cycle. So this has gone through the soap cycle. Looks really good. Everything's really clean. Oh, look, there's a tiger's eye in there. I forgot about that. So got these rinsed off, got the barrel cleaned out, and now it's time to put them into a stage three. Looking at that hole in the geode again, and I just need to make sure there's no grit in it, and I don't think there is, but just in case, I pulled out my water pick, and I'm just going to spray it out just to make sure it's fully actually clean, because you just don't want any grits moving along with your rocks. So made sure that was all clean. Everything else, I'm checking the dumortierite because it's got a lot of crevices in it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going through making sure nothing is going to carry some grit. So that amethyst that I pulled over to the side is just chipped and broken and cracked really badly. I don't know when that happened, but it did happen. And so I actually was able to completely break it in half with my hands. Just after this video, I picked it up and was looking at it, and I just kind of put tiniest bit of pressure on it, and it just broke straight in half. So that is going to go back into stage one. I'm checking here to see how much grit I'm supposed to add. So I believe it's 1 tablespoon per pound. This is a 3-pound barrel, so 3 tablespoons. And so these are going to go into stage 3 for a week. And then, so we'll check on these. These should go into stage 4 next week. So very excited. These are almost done. Hopefully they turn out really good. I have faith that they will be. I'm really curious to see how the demortierite and quartz turns out, because I don't, since it's it's 2 types of stones in one, I know the quartz should shine up pretty well, but I just don't know how the demortierite is going to do. So I'm really, really anxious to see how those turn out. And the geode too, I think, is really fun and interesting to see how that's going to go. All right, so next is the sodalite that I put into stage 1 last week. This sodalite is looking really good. And so I decided to check it after a day. So this is me checking to see the progress on it today. Since this is a very soft rock, I wanted to see how it was doing. By the way, this is like sticking your hand in gritty, warm bath water. It was absolutely horrible to stick your fingers in this slurry. It is just thinking about it was just awful. Not ready to go, but there was some more room in the barrel, so I threw in the last 2 pieces of sodalite that I had. Then I needed to clean my hands off because the warm grittiness, it was awful. So yeah, those go back into stage 1. And I left them. This was after just 24 hours, so maybe 48 hours. I don't remember. They were not ready by any means, so they went back in. This is how they were after the rest of that week. So that slurry looks much better. Dumping them out. And they did stick a little bit in the bottom, but these also, I rinse all of my barrels at the same time, and this was the last ones that I did, so they had been sitting for a little bit, and that tends to sort of bring the slurry down. The slurry settles really quickly, so it did use up all of the grit. They just had been sitting, waiting for me to rinse them off for a while. But look at these colors. They're so pretty. Those blues are so nice and dark, and I just love the way they're looking. So I'm going through here, and I'm pulling out the things that I think are ready for stage 2. I'm keeping these separate from the other stage 2 rocks because these are softer, so I don't want to mix the two. So I'll have 2 stage 2 barrels at some point, one with these softer rocks, one with the harder ones. Most of these are actually pretty good. They are rounding out very nicely, which I expect because these are soft. They're like a 5. So putting all these into another cup for stage 2. And then I'm going to put some water in there. And the rest of these are ready for stage 3, but that barrel was really low because of me taking out all of those stage 2 rocks, so I just filled the barrel up. Almost all of my media I put in there just to help fill up that barrel and round things out a little bit more, because what was left in there were things that had some pretty big crevices and things, so hopefully the tumbling media will help get a lot of that out. Alright, so putting in the stage 1 grit, and then putting the lid on, and this is going to go for another week. And looking forward to how these turn out, because those colors were amazing. And now it's time for the flourite. Flourite went all the way through to final polish. And I was following a recipe that I found online from a reputable source on how to polish softer rocks like flourite in a rotary tumbler. And I'm going to tell you, it did not work. So, starting out, stage 2, they were in stage 2 for 48 hours. Really closer to 40 hours, but it was said between 30 and 48 hours. So, 40 hours. Again, stuck my fingers in warm, gritty bath water, it felt like, to see how they were. They rounded out beautifully in stage 2. They were great. So I went ahead and dumped them out, and I rinsed them off. By the way, I don't show me rinsing the soap cycles in this one, and I intended to show me rinsing that cycle, but I forgot to hit record. So that's one of the blue ones that's in there that's really pretty. I didn't realize that flourite came in blue. I thought it was just green and purple, but it's also in blue. So now, after 48 hours in stage 2, you need to do a burnishing cycle. You do a burnishing cycle after every single step in this recipe, and I burnished for 24 hours. So I did a soap cycle for 24 hours after each of the grit steps. So this was a stage 2. It's going into stage 3, but first we're going to burnish for 24 hours. I'm just sorting through these to see if any of them have any deep crevices or cracks or anything that might hold some grit that I need to clean out. If it did, I took care of that and cleaned the grit out. That's something that you really should do anyway, but particularly with these rocks, because I don't want to just hold some back and move some forward. I'm moving them all along as a batch. So burnish cycle 24 hours, and then we're going to put it into stage 2. Like I said, or stage 3. So I don't show rinsing the burnishing cycle in this video because it would have made this even longer than it already is. This video is already too long in my opinion anyway, so I just took out some of that extra video that I'm sure nobody really cares about. So we're going to go from stage 2, because this started at stage 2, and we're going to put it into stage 3. And I don't know why I'm spending so much time here writing that this is now stage 2. This is the soap cycle. Like I said, I had a hard time keeping track of whether or not, because these were changing every day, I had a hard time keeping track of whether or not they were in the soap cycle or in the grit cycle. So I started kind of writing that out. But this is me going through again, cleaning out any grit that I find, and making sure that they are all clean. So that's one of the nicer pieces that I really like. This was after the burnishing cycle, so these should be fairly clean, but I am just making sure before I move them on into the next stage that there is no stage 2 grit. There is a rock that I put down at the bottom. I'm going to pick it up and put it in. It just needed to be rinsed out really quick. I didn't necessarily want to just do them one at a time, so I just kind of put one to the side for a second. Anyway, so these are actually really pretty. I do like these rocks. Some of them are a little more pink, some of them go into blue, but there's a lot of the green and the purple, and they have the stripes in them. They're really pretty. I like these fluorite rocks, but I don't think that I have the equipment needed to get them super high polish. The recipe I said that it would with a rotary tumbler, and gave instructions specifically for a rotary tumbler, but they just did not work. So I don't have the space or the patience to do a vibratory tumbler, because you have to babysit them a lot more. You have to make sure that they stay with enough water, and that, that they are running, and they're very loud. So I don't really want to get one. So anyway, moving this into stage 3. Specifically, I am using not my silicone carbide stage 3 grit. This is my aluminum oxide stage 3. In the recipe, I got said to specifically use aluminum oxide stage 3. So I'm going to put, I don't remember how much I put in here. So that's 4 tablespoons. Maybe I'm putting 5 tablespoons of aluminum oxide. And then I'm going to let this go for 24 hours. So stage 2 for 48, and then stage 3 and 4 are both going to be for 24 hours. So go ahead and get this put in, and then this is stage 3, and we'll let that go. I need to mark my lid. For some reason, this lid kept scraping off the writing that I had on it, which was also not helping me keep track of where things were. So yeah, stage 3. This is the rinse for stage 3. It looks really good. And maybe I'll just say, I'll just put these through, instead of just doing them in 24 hours, I'll let them actually run for a week, and maybe that will help. I don't know. I don't think it really actually matters once you get rocks that are this soft. These are a little harder than the shungite that I did, but not really by much. So, like I said, I did not expect that I was going to get a high gloss shine on these. I knew that I most likely would not. So I'm not disappointed, but I was hopeful that the instructions I got would work. So anyway, rinse those off, And then they went into they need to go into a soap cycle again. So again, I'm going to sort through these. I did want to see if maybe they were getting any kind of a shine on them, and they absolutely were not. You can see they're very, very matte. There's no shine on that at all. Any shine you do see is because it's still kind of wet, because the towel doesn't dry it off all the way. So here I go. There's that one piece. It's got, I'm not sure what that white part is on it. It's a different type of rock, so it kind of grit gets stuck in there. So I just have to clean that out. So I checked a couple. They were great. I'm not going to search every single rock from here on out. I'm just going to pull out the ones I know are going to need a rinse and then move them all forward. So trying to remember where I'm at, and that's why that little finger thing, I'm trying to think of what I'm supposed to do next. So burnish cycle. This is again burnish for 24 hours. And I'm thinking I might pull this part out and make a separate video of me doing just this flourite, and maybe I'll put the steps into a slide on that video. But since this didn't really turn out that well, I don't know if I want to do that now. Anyway, so this is stage 3, the burnish for stage 3, or the soap cycle, whatever you want to call it, and moving on. Now, something that was interesting with this flourite is after the final stage, you do a dry polish, and I've never done a dry polish before, so it's entirely possible I didn't do this right. But anyway, so yeah, this is after the burnish of stage 3. Still no shine at all. Putting them back in the barrel. And now it's time to go into stage 4. So stage 4 final polish is again an aluminum oxide stage 4 polish. And I don't remember how much I put in here. But I think maybe like 4 or 5 tablespoons, so we'll see. So there's 3. Okay, only 3. I am not running these for a week. If you're running them for longer, you might put more in, but it's just not going to go through the polish and the grits as much when you're only running them for 48 or for 24 hours. So, all right. So this is stage 4, and it's going to do this for 24 hours again. And then we'll do another burnishing cycle. Like I said, there's a soap cycle after every single stage in this. You just need to really make sure that your rocks are super clean as they go through. Any amount of grit is just going to mess it all up. So this is me rinsing the stage 4. Actually looks really good. Nothing getting stuck anywhere. They rinse off really nicely. Sorry, I'm not talking as much. This is a really long video. Nothing much to say here, just rinsing off some rocks. So again, this is goes into another soap cycle. I wanted to check here again. Did it get any kind of shine at all? We're not done yet, but you know, did it get shiny at all? No, not in the slightest. Not even a little bit. Not at all. They look like they just came out of stage 2. And I don't know if maybe it's just because they're not given enough time. I was following the instructions I was given precisely, exactly the amount of time they were saying to do things, and they weren't vague instructions. They were very specific, so I'm not sure what happened, but yeah. So we're going to move, this is the burnishing cycle for stage 4. After this cycle is when we do the dry polish. And like I said, I've never done a dry polish before. It seemed pretty simple. Dry rocks, dry polish, dry barrel. Everything was dry. And still didn't work, but yeah. So anyway, got those rinsed off. This is going into a dry polish. I needed to make sure they were dry, so I spread them all out onto a towel. I used another towel to kind of dry the tops off a little bit, and then I let them sit until they were dry. they weren't super wet anyway, but I did let them sit to make sure that they were dry. And so I'm not really sure where I went wrong. But anyway, so dry polish. To do a dry polish, you're going to use corn cob. So I had got corn cob, and the instructions I got said specifically to mix corn cob with stage 4 polish. So the same polish they just came out of. So that's what this is. This kind of grayish color, that's because it has the polish in it. Whereas this is just plain corn cob with nothing in it. Doesn't have any mix in it. So the instructions said to fill the barrel 3/4 of the way with the dry polish. So I filled that up. That was only about half full. So I then got some of the plain corn cob and poured some of that in there. I didn't mix any additional polish in because I didn't really feel like it needed it, because there was a lot of polish in the other stuff. But there's my corn cob. And then it said to separate into batches, because you don't want the rocks to rub against each other in this cycle. You want there to be enough room that they're pretty much just rubbing against the polish in the corn cob, and that's how it's going to get the high polish. So I actually didn't even put all of those rocks in. So I did a handful or two, and then felt like that was plenty. I didn't want to put any more in there because I didn't want to overcrowd everything. So I'm kind of seeing how much space they're taking up. That seemed okay to me. I've never done this before, so maybe I should have put more rock in there. Maybe I should have put more dry polish. I don't know. I need to do a little more looking into that, but maybe I did something wrong. But anyway, so this is going to run for 48 hours, and that after 48 hours, it's supposed to be highly polished. And like I said, spoiler alert, they were not. They actually don't look any different coming out of the dry polish than they did before. So this is me taking them out of the dry polish. I wasn't really sure the best way to separate them out. But yeah, you can see they're in there. The barrel is now covered in stage 4 dry polish. So poured them out, and then I kind of had to just dig through the corn cob to pull them out. And every time I thought I'd gotten them all out, I'd find more. This took actually a couple minutes to actually get everything out, because they hide really well in this corn cob. So I literally would say, oh, that looks like there's nothing in there, and then I'd run my fingers through and find more. So at the very end, you'll see me running through my fingers through one more time. There you go. Just to make sure there's nothing else hiding in there. And I'm going to rinse these off, because as you can see, they're covered in dust. So this was them after being rinsed off. Grabbed a towel, and they absolutely did not change. No change at all. They are not shiny in the slightest. They look no different. So then I had an idea. I was like, okay, this didn't work, but I have a polishing bit for a cordless rotary tool. It's not a Dremel, but it's that same kind of deal. So I thought maybe I'll try that. I'll see if that polishing bit will do anything at all. So I'll show you me doing that. And I didn't go super hardcore on it. I didn't. This is that rotary tool with the polishing bit on it, and I didn't rev it up. This was me just saying, will this make any difference at all whatsoever? And it did not. So I sat here for a couple minutes, sort of just, I polished both sides of the rock and the edges on one half of it just to see, and it smelled. I could smell that it was doing something. And I was thinking, man, I should be wearing a respirator for this, because this can't be good for my lungs. But I didn't think about that before I started. So, yeah, this is me polishing off camera, apparently out of frame. And yeah, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. So, yeah, there's no difference. It's still just as I don't want to say dull, but matte. It's still matte. Made no difference. So, oh well, I tried. It was a thing that I did, and no, I was hopeful that this would work, but it didn't. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to try things and see if they work, and it didn't. So now I have an empty barrel. What am I going to put in it? I am going to put this indigo gabbro in it. I don't know. This is a new rock for me. I've never heard of gabbro before. But I think it'll be fun and interesting. So this is the 6 on that post-it note means these are 6 hardness. So it was not enough to fill a 3-pound barrel. So I switched it over to a 1-pound barrel, and then it was a little too much for that, so I pulled a couple out. But I'm sure that these will go through several stage 1 cycles. 6 is a decently hard rock, so I imagine that I will be doing a couple of cycles with this. So stage 1, and we'll see where we go from here. So I think 2 tablespoons, because that's a scoop is a 2 tablespoon scoop, and some water, and we'll run these for a week, and we'll see how they are. And I'm excited because I don't know what these are going to look like. I know I bought them, but when I bought them, they just had pictures of them rough. So I don't know what these are going to look like when they're polished. But I think it's going to be fun and interesting and cool, and something I've never done before. And that's what I like to do here on my channel, is things that people tell you shouldn't do, or things that I've never done before. So yeah, Flourite was kind of a flop, but maybe this indigo gabbro will be kind of fun. So yes, like I said, stage 1 for a week, and then we'll see how it's going. And this week's kind of a bummer that the Flourite didn't turn out, but, thanks for watching anyway, and we'll see what we come up with next week.